We chase freedom through wealth and power, yet a slave found it in chains. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus wrote, "You are not your body or your possessions, you are your choices and judgments." This man, born into slavery and physically lame, discovered a liberation so complete that his teachings have guided millions. This video will show you the exact mental practices he used to build an unshakable inner freedom, principles you can apply to your own life starting today. How did a man with no control over his own body master the only control that truly matters? What does it mean to be free when your external world is defined by limits? Some things are up to us, and some things are simply not. This single idea, the dichotomy of control, was the bedrock of Epictetus' entire philosophy and the very gateway to the freedom he described. He opens his handbook with this stark division, writing, "Some things are in our control and others not. Things in our control are our opinions, our impulses, our desires, our own actions. Everything else, from our property to our reputation to our very bodies, falls outside that sacred inner citadel." For a man who was owned by another, this was not a theoretical exercise. It was a practical map for navigating a world where he commanded almost nothing externally. Think about sitting in your car, stuck in an unmoving line of traffic. The traffic jam itself is not within your control. You cannot will the cars ahead of you to vanish, but your reaction to that delay, your frustration, your decision to listen to music or an audiobook, your choice to use the time for reflection or to fume, that entire inner landscape belongs entirely to you. The fundamental mistake we make, Epictetus would argue, is pouring our energy into trying to command the uncommandable, while neglecting the one domain we are truly the masters of. So what is one situation you currently worry about that is ultimately not within your control? This mental separation from externals is not about becoming cold or uncaring. Epictetus practiced a profound form of cognitive detachment, a skill of seeing events for what they are, stripped of the emotional labels we hastily paste onto them. He argued that we are disturbed not by events themselves, but by the views we take of them. Think of a rainy day that ruins your outdoor plans. The rain is just water falling from the sky. It is neutral. Your judgment that it is a bad thing is what creates the disappointment. The event is one reality. Your story about the event is another. This was the core of his freedom. He could witness the same external circumstance as anyone else, but he refused to let his inner judgment be enslaved by it. Consider the powerful example of losing a job. The event itself, the termination of employment, is a factual occurrence. One person might immediately judge it as a catastrophic failure, a personal indictment leading to despair. Another might see it as a neutral, if difficult, turn of events, or even an unexpected opportunity for a new beginning. The suffering does not live in the pink slip. It lives in the first story, the judgment of disaster. Your mind has the ultimate authority to assign meaning. What recent event have you automatically labeled as bad? A difficult conversation, a delayed flight, a critical comment. Now pause and ask, what if I saw this event as simply an occurrence, a fact, without the added weight of my negative judgment? How would that single shift change your entire experience of the situation? This discipline begins with a simple, almost brutal reordering of our wants. Epictetus called it the discipline of desire, and its goal is to train ourselves to want only what is virtuous and truly within our power. He advised his students, if you desire any of the things not in your own control, you must necessarily be disappointed. But if you desire only what is within your own power, no one can ever hinder you. Inner peace is not found by getting everything you want, but by wanting only what you cannot lose. Think about the deep human craving for social validation, for likes and praise and approval from others. That desire is aimed squarely at something outside your control, another person's private thoughts. You can act with the utmost kindness and integrity and still be met with criticism or indifference. If your desire was for the validation itself, you are setting yourself up for constant frustration. But if your desire shifts to simply acting with integrity, regardless of the outcome, you have chosen a target you can always hit. You are no longer a slave to the fickle opinions of the crowd. Your satisfaction comes from your own action, an internal achievement that no external event can take from you. What is one desire you could let go of today to increase your mental freedom? Is it the need for a particular promotion, the longing for a specific person's affection, the craving for a flawless outcome? Releasing that external hook is not giving up, it is taking back your power. This discipline of desire leads to the ultimate expression of Stoic freedom, a concept known as Amor Fati, the love of one's fate. It is not merely a grudging acceptance of events, but a wholehearted embrace of everything that happens, seeing each moment, especially the difficult ones, as necessary and even beneficial for your growth. Epictetus did not just tolerate his slavery and his physical lameness, he welcomed them as the very conditions that forged his philosophy. He saw his body not as a prison, but as a training ground for his character. His master, the story goes, once twisted his leg so violently that it broke. Rather than cursing his fate, Epictetus reportedly remained calm and said, "You will break it." And when the bone snapped, he added, "See, I told you so." In that moment of extreme pain, he was demonstrating that his master could break his body, but could not break his will. He was loving the fate that tested and proved his inner strength. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, another great Stoic, echoed this when he wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." Every obstacle, every piece of hardship becomes fuel for your inner fire. Can you look back and identify a past difficulty, a rejection, a failure, or a loss that in hindsight actually helped you grow stronger or wiser? That shift in perspective from victim to student is the heart of Amor Fati. It is the realization that the very things we resist are often the raw materials for building an unshakable self. Your mind is constantly presented with impressions of the world. A sound is just a vibration in the air. A comment is just a sequence of words until you give it your approval. Epictetus called this critical act assent. He warned that we are deceived by the appearances of things, captivated by the first impression that rushes into our minds before we have even had a moment to judge it. True freedom, he taught, is found in the power to withhold your assent from any impression that is false or harmful. This is the ultimate mental veto. Imagine you receive an email with harsh critical feedback on a project you worked hard on. The first impression that floods your system might be one of shame, anger, or defensiveness. It feels like a personal attack, a definitive judgment on your worth. This impression is powerful and immediate, but it is just an impression. You have a choice in that crucial pause between the event and your reaction to either assent to that initial story or to question it. You can withhold your agreement. You can look at the feedback and ask, is this impression completely true? Is it possible some of this criticism, however poorly delivered, contains a kernel of useful information? By withholding your immediate assent to the negative impression, you reclaim the space to choose a different, more constructive judgment. Your inner citadel remains secure not because negative events stop happening, but because you stop automatically letting them in. Next time a strong negative impression arises, pause and ask yourself one simple question. Is this impression true? That moment of questioning is the very exercise of your freedom. Every obstacle you face is a chance to prove who you are. Epictetus taught that difficulties are things that show what men are. He saw each barrier not as a blockade on his path, but as the path itself, the very material for building a stronger character. For a man born a slave, every command from a master, every physical pain, was an invitation to practice patience, to exercise courage, to demonstrate that his inner self remained his own. His entire life was a testament to this reframing. Imagine a professional setback, a project that fails spectacularly despite your best efforts. The common reaction is to see it as a pure loss, a mark of failure. But through the Stoic lens, this same event transforms into a training ground. The frustration becomes a test of your emotional resilience. The need to start over becomes a practice in perseverance. The criticism you receive offers a chance to practice humility and discernment, to sift through feedback without losing your core confidence. You are not being punished by the obstacle. You are being presented with a unique curriculum for your growth. What current obstacle in your life can you view as a training ground for your character? Is it a difficult relationship, a financial pressure, a personal fear? See it not as a problem to be eliminated, but as a weight to strengthen your mental muscles. This shift in perspective turns every hardship from a foe into a demanding but invaluable teacher. Epictetus took this mental training one step further with a practice known as Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. This is not about pessimism or fear, but about a deliberate and courageous rehearsal of potential loss. By consciously imagining the things we value being taken away, we strip those potential events of their power to shock us, and more importantly, we unlock a profound sense of gratitude for what we have right now. Epictetus advised his students to remember that everything you are fond of is of the same nature as a jar or a crystal glass. The glass is beautiful, but it is also fragile. Knowing it could shatter does not stop you from using it, but it changes how you handle it. You hold it with care, you appreciate its clarity while you drink from it, and if it does break, you are not entirely devastated because you understood its nature from the beginning. Apply this to a possession you cherish, perhaps a family heirloom or a piece of technology you rely on. Imagine it is gone tomorrow. For a moment, truly sit with that feeling of loss. Notice how that single thought instantly shifts your perspective, making you value the object more intensely in this present moment. The practice works not just for objects, but for relationships, for your health, for your career. The core idea is to remember the impermanence of all things, not to make you anxious, but to make you awake. It trains you to see every day with those you love, every moment of good health, every simple comfort as a temporary gift. This mental exercise immunizes you against the despair of sudden misfortune. By regularly visiting this place of potential loss in your mind, you build a resilience that ensures when life does take something away, you are not caught completely by surprise. Your peace is no longer held hostage by the fragile continuity of your external circumstances. So what are you taking for granted today that you can consciously appreciate through this practice? Is it the warmth of your home, the loyalty of a friend, the simple ability to walk without pain? By imagining its absence, you are not inviting misfortune. You are reclaiming the power to find deep, unshakable joy in its presence. Your mind is a fortress with a single gatekeeper, you. Epictetus envisioned this inner space as a citadel, a place of absolute safety that no external event could ever storm without your own permission. He famously stated, "Remember that it is not the person who insults you or strikes you that insults you, but your judgment that these people are insulting you." The insult itself is just a collection of words, empty noise. Your judgment, your decision to label that noise as an injury, is what opens the gate and lets the harm inside. He spent a lifetime cultivating this inviolable inner space, a refuge that remained serene even when his body was in chains. Imagine someone shouting an insult at you from a passing car. The sound waves hit your ears, but that is all that happens physically. The feeling of being offended, the rush of anger or shame, that is your own creation. It is the story you tell yourself about what those words mean. In his fortified mind, Epictetus would hear the words, recognize them as mere sounds with no inherent power, and simply let them pass by without granting them entry. The insult bounces off, not because he was numb or indifferent, but because the walls of his judgment were too strong for it to penetrate. How can you begin to strengthen your own inner citadel against the daily irritations that wear you down? Start with the small things. The next time you are stuck in a long queue or a coworker makes a snippy remark, notice the first impulse to feel aggrieved. Then pause, ask yourself, am I choosing to open the gate? Is my judgment that this is a terrible inconvenience the real source of my frustration, or is it just a neutral event? Each time you consciously refuse to assent to the initial negative impression, you are laying another stone in your inner wall. You are building a space of quiet freedom that no outside chaos can ever take from you. Freedom is found not in changing your role, but in playing it with your entire being. Epictetus discovered this profound truth through the very condition of his slavery. He taught that our lives are like a play, and we are the actors. The playwright, or the divine reason of the universe, assigns the parts. Your job is not to complain that you were cast as a beggar instead of a king, but to perform the part of the beggar skillfully and with virtue. He famously instructed his students, remember that you are an actor in a play, the character of which is determined by the playwright. If he wishes the play to be short, it is short. If long, it is long. He has given you a role, and your sole duty is to act that role well. For Epictetus, this was the ultimate reframing of his own circumstances. He was assigned the role of a slave and later the role of a lame teacher. He could have raged against this casting, but instead he chose to pour all of his wisdom and integrity into that part. He found his liberation by excelling within the boundaries he was given. This is the Stoic concept of appropriate acts, or katherkonta. These are the actions that align with your specific role in life and are performed with virtue. Your appropriate act as a parent is to care for your child with patience and love. Your appropriate act as an employee is to do your work with diligence and honesty. The role itself does not define your worth. The excellence you bring to it does. Think of a customer service representative dealing with an angry caller. The caller's anger is not within the representative's control. Their assigned role is to listen, to be helpful within their power, and to remain calm and professional. By focusing solely on performing that role with virtue, the representative achieves a quiet dignity that the customer's frustration cannot touch. They are acting their part well. So what is your current role? Are you a student, a manager, a friend, a caregiver? How can you perform that role with excellence and virtue today? Your path to freedom lies not in waiting for a better part, but in mastering the one you have been given right now. This was the final, radical step in his training, a concept known as voluntary discomfort. Epictetus deliberately chose to experience lack, to prove to himself that his well-being was not chained to his physical circumstances. He lived in a simple hut with only a straw mat and a clay lamp, famously saying that a wise person, after losing everything, would say, "I have lost nothing that belongs to me." He trained with hardship so that when hardship inevitably arrived, it would find him already prepared and unshaken. he advised his students to practice sometimes living as if you were poor, so that you may never be poor in spirit. This is not about punishing yourself, but about conducting a profound experiment in self-sufficiency. You are testing the hypothesis that you are more resilient than your comforts suggest. Think of it as a fire drill for the soul. You do not wait for the fire to practice your escape. You practice when things are safe, so you are ready when they are not. A powerful and immediate way to practice this is to voluntarily take a cold shower or to skip a meal you are looking forward to. In that moment of initial resistance, you confront a direct question. Is my peace of mind dependent on this warmth, this food? The slight physical discomfort becomes the arena where you exercise your inner freedom, proving to yourself that you can choose your response. You emerge not just cleaner or a little hungrier, but mentally stronger, having demonstrated that you are the master of your desires, not their servant. So, what small comfort could you voluntarily give up this week to strengthen your self-sufficiency? Could it be turning off the heating for an hour, walking instead of driving, or taking a break from social media? Each small act of renunciation is a vote for your own inner strength, a declaration that your happiness is built on something far more durable than temporary ease. Epictetus gave a single name to this core self that chooses and judges, calling it your Prohairesis. This Greek term points to your fundamental moral character, your capacity for deliberate choice. He taught that your Prohairesis is the one thing that is truly and unconditionally yours, a faculty of judgment that no external power can ever truly hinder or enslave. You can be imprisoned, you can be poor, you can be physically broken, but your Prohairesis remains free to interpret those events and choose its response. This inner citadel is your unassailable possession. Imagine two individuals sharing the same small prison cell. One stares at the walls, his mind consumed by bitterness and despair, seeing only confinement. His Prohairesis has assented to the story that his life is over. The other prisoner looks out the same barred window, noticing the pattern of sunlight on the floor, using the quiet hours to reflect, to plan, to strengthen his resolve. He is physically confined, yet his inner world, his Prohairesis, remains a landscape of possibility. The bars are the same for both men, but their experience of those bars is a choice. This is the ultimate power Epictetus identified. No one can force you to believe something you know is false. No one can compel you to value what you deem worthless. They can threaten your body or your possessions, but your final judgment, your assent, belongs to you alone. Where in your own life can you exercise your Prohairesis more consciously? Is it in a situation where you feel pressured to agree with a crowd, or when you are about to react with anger to a provocation? That moment of conscious choice where you decide what story to tell yourself about what is happening is where your true freedom is either claimed or surrendered. Our freedom expands when our attention contracts to the present moment. The past is a collection of memories we can no longer change, and the future is a realm of possibilities we cannot command. Epictetus and the Stoics understood that true peace is found by anchoring yourself entirely in the now, the only time where your power to choose is actually real. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of this, writing in his private journal, "Concentrate every minute on doing what is in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness." He was not talking about monumental tasks, but about the simple, immediate action before him. When you are washing a dish, just wash the dish. When you are listening to a friend, just listen. This complete immersion in the present task is an act of liberation from the ghosts of yesterday and the shadows of tomorrow. Think about a mistake you made last week, a clumsy comment in a meeting or a poor decision at work. How much mental energy have you spent replaying that moment, wishing you could undo it? That energy is being drained from your present power, invested in a bank account from which you can never make a withdrawal. Now contrast that with the feeling of being completely absorbed in a conversation or a project where time seems to fall away and you are fully engaged. In that state, anxiety and regret have no foothold. You are free because you are using your faculty of choice exactly where it can be effective. The present moment is the only place where your life is actually happening. What is one thing you can do right now to be completely present? It could be as simple as feeling the keyboard under your fingers, noticing the rhythm of your own breath, or truly hearing the sounds around you without labeling them as good or bad. This simple act of return is where you reclaim your freedom from the tyranny of time itself. The world does not come to us with labels already attached. A job rejection letter is just a piece of paper with printed words. Your mind is the artist that paints it with the colors of failure. Epictetus understood this, and he taught a powerful mental exercise to strip away those hasty brushstrokes, a practice we can call objective description. He urged his students to see things as they are, not as our fears or hopes proclaim them to be. This is the discipline of describing any event, especially an emotionally charged one, in the plainest, most factual language possible, removing every layer of subjective judgment. That critical email from your boss is not an attack on your character. Objectively, it is a written communication containing specific points of feedback. A rainy wedding day is not a disaster. It is a day with a high probability of precipitation. This is not about denying your feelings, but about creating a small space between the raw event and your emotional reaction, a space where your freedom to choose a response can flourish. The moment you label an event as terrible, you have already handed over a piece of your inner peace. The objective description reclaims it. Think of a recent event that stirred strong emotions in you. Perhaps a disagreement with a loved one or a project that did not meet your expectations. Now try the exercise. Redescribe that event in one simple, neutral sentence, as if you were a camera recording only facts. Instead of saying, "My partner was so unfair and hurtful," the objective description might be, "My partner used a raised tone and stated they were disappointed." Notice the immediate shift in weight. The first version is a story of victimhood. The second is a simple report of observable behavior. The first version locks you into a cycle of resentment. The second version, while perhaps still difficult, leaves the door open for understanding and a reasoned response. You are no longer reacting to a monster of your own creation, but to a manageable set of facts. How would your perspective on a current challenge change if you described it with the cool precision of a scientist noting data? That same inner citadel must remain unshaken by praise, just as it is by criticism. A life chasing freedom cannot be thrown off course by the shifting winds of fortune, whether they blow favorably or not. Epictetus insisted we meet both success and failure with the same steady eye, for both are externals, events outside the sacred domain of our own choices. He offered a powerful image for this state of mind, advising his students to be like the rock in the sea, against which the waves continually break. It stands firm, and round it the seething waters are laid to rest. The rock does not celebrate when the water is calm, nor does it despair when the storm rages. It simply remains grounded in its own nature. This is equanimity. The unshakable peace that comes from knowing your worth is not for sale to the highest bidder or the loudest applause. Imagine a young entrepreneur finally landing a major investment for her startup. The immediate impulse is one of pure elation, a feeling that she has arrived, that her worth is now confirmed. But that feeling is a trap because it anchors her sense of self to an external event, a sum of money that could just as easily be lost in the next quarter. The Stoic approach is not to deny the positive outcome, but to refuse to be defined by it. She can acknowledge the achievement as a preferred outcome, a thing she worked for, while holding the inner conviction that her core value as a person remains exactly the same as it was the day before the check cleared. The same principle applies to failure. A project you poured your heart into is met with public indifference. The pain is real, but the equanimous mind sees this, too, as an external event. Your effort and your intent were within your control, and those remain yours, untarnished by the public's reaction. The outcome was never yours to command. How can you prepare yourself to remain equanimous during your next success or failure? Begin by consciously separating your actions from their results. The next time you complete a task, whether it is a presentation at work or a meal you cook for your family, take a quiet moment to appreciate the quality of the effort itself. Find your satisfaction in the diligence you showed, the care you took, the integrity of the process. When the results come in, whether as roaring applause or silence, you will have already secured your reward in a place where no one can take it from you. Your inner citadel is not a solitary fortress, but one connected to a city of others. Epictetus taught that our freedom finds its highest expression not in isolation, but in our relationships. He saw our duties to others as natural extensions of our own reasoned nature, not as chains that bind us. We are social creatures, and to live according to our true nature means to act with justice, fairness, and kindness. This is where the Stoic ideal of freedom blossoms into a social practice. He offered a simple, profound guideline for all human interaction, the duty to bear and forbear. To bear with the faults and mistakes of others, and to forbear from retaliating with our own. This is not a passive surrender, but an active exercise of your power. When someone is rude or difficult, your first impression might be one of anger, a desire to snap back and put them in their place. That reaction hands control of your inner state over to them. Choosing patience, on the other hand, is a declaration of your own sovereignty. You are exercising your prohairesis, your capacity for choice, to act justly even when provoked. Imagine a colleague who consistently takes credit for your ideas in meetings. The natural, impulsive reaction is one of seething resentment, perhaps a public confrontation. But see this through the lens of bearing and forbearing. You bear with their insecurity or poor character without letting it corrupt your own. You forbear from launching a counterattack that would only escalate the conflict and damage your own integrity. Instead, you might choose a calm, private conversation, stating the facts without malice. Or you might simply focus on producing such excellent work that your contributions become undeniable. In either case, your freedom is preserved. You are not a puppet whose strings are pulled by another person's behavior. Your inner peace remains intact because you have chosen the virtuous path. How can you exercise your freedom by choosing kindness in a challenging social interaction today? Is it with a demanding family member, an impatient customer, or a competitive peer? Your freedom is measured not by how others treat you, but by how you choose to treat them. Much of our daily slavery comes from a desperate need for approval and a deep fear of what others might say. We hand over the keys to our inner citadel, letting the opinions of acquaintances, colleagues, and even strangers dictate our mood and our choices. Epictetus saw this craving for praise and terror of blame as a primary form of self-imposed bondage. He offered a radical solution, a profound indifference to both. He famously instructed his students, if anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said, but answer, he was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone. This is not about arrogance, but about a complete reorientation of your source of validation. You are no longer waiting for a report card from the outside world to tell you your own grade. You have become your own impartial judge. Look at the modern phenomenon of social media validation. Each like and positive comment can feel like a tiny hit of affirmation, while a critical reply or being ignored can send you spiraling. Your entire emotional state becomes tied to a digital metric you cannot control. You are a slave to the algorithm. The Stoic practice is to perform the action itself, to post the thought or the photo because it aligns with your own sense of integrity or joy, and then to let it go. The reactions, whether a flood of hearts or utter silence, are externals. They have nothing to do with the quality of your initial choice. Your freedom is found in the posting, not in the public's verdict. So ask yourself, whose opinion do you fear most in your own life? Is it a parent's, a boss's, a certain friend's? Now, imagine what true freedom from that fear would feel like. It is not about disrespecting them, but about no longer needing their stamp of approval to feel whole and at peace. It is the quiet confidence of knowing your own character, a confidence that no external voice can grant or take away. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. This statement by Epictetus cuts directly against the grain of our modern world. He discovered that the less he needed, the more expansive his inner freedom became. This is the Stoic virtue of temperance, not as a grim self-denial, but as a clear-eyed recognition of what truly sustains a good life. Historical accounts describe his living conditions in stark terms: a simple hut with a bedroll and a single clay lamp after his freedom was granted. He chose this not out of poverty, but out of principle. By actively limiting his needs, he was removing the potential handles that fortune could use to grab him and shake his peace. Think of your own living space, filled with gadgets, clothes, and countless items you rarely use. Each object is not just a physical thing, it is a tiny mental claim on your attention, a small thread tying your contentment to a material world that is inherently unstable. The practice of decluttering, then, is not just an organizational tactic. It is a modern form of Stoic training. Each item you consciously let go of is a small declaration of independence, a vote for the idea that your well-being is built on something more durable than stuff. It is an exercise in proving to yourself that you already have enough. So what is one material possession you realize you could be perfectly content without? Is it that stack of old books you will never reread, the extra coat hanging in your closet, or perhaps the latest upgrade to a device that still works perfectly fine? Letting it go is not a loss, but a quiet, powerful step toward the same freedom Epictetus knew. Anger does not simply erupt from nowhere. It begins as a single spark of judgment, a story you tell yourself about an event. Epictetus saw these overwhelming passions not as forces of nature, but as failures of reason. He believed we are disturbed not by things, but by the views which we take of things. Your rage at being cut off in traffic is not caused by the other car, but by your immediate judgment that this driver has disrespected you and wronged you. That judgment is the fuel. Reason is the water you can choose to pour on it. This is the core of Stoic psychology. Destructive emotions are not your enemies to be fought, but errors in your thinking to be gently corrected. Freedom from these storms comes from learning to question the very thoughts that summon them. Imagine a colleague takes credit for your work during a team meeting. The first impression is a hot wave of betrayal and anger. The primitive part of your brain screams that this is an injustice, an attack. This is the passion taking hold. But then you engage your reason. You pause and dissect the judgment. You ask, is it absolutely true that this person acted with malicious intent? Could it be a simple mistake, a moment of careless speaking? Is my value as a professional so fragile that it can be stolen by a single comment in a meeting? By interrogating the initial story, you strip the event of its inflammatory power. The feeling of anger may not vanish instantly, but it loses its command over your actions. You reclaim the space to choose a response that is measured, effective, and truly in your control. Next time a strong emotion like jealousy or anxiety arises, do not let it carry you away. Engage your reason as your inner guardian. Ask yourself one simple, powerful question. What judgment am I making right now that is causing this feeling? That single act of inquiry is the exercise of your freedom. Knowing yourself is the first and most difficult step toward real freedom. Epictetus insisted that we cannot master what we do not first understand, and this begins with a ruthless and honest inventory of our own mind. He taught that the unexamined life is not worth living, a principle he inherited from Socrates. For the Stoic, this self-knowledge is not about introspection for its own sake, but a practical tool for liberation. You must become a cartographer of your own soul, mapping the hidden shoals of your biases, the quiet currents of your automatic desires, and the specific triggers that reliably pull you into anger or anxiety. This is not a passive awareness, but an active investigation. He urged his students to examine their impressions, to hold them up to the light of reason and ask, is this impression trustworthy? Is it serving my peace? This daily practice of self-scrutiny is what prevents you from being a stranger in your own mind, a passenger on a ship you do not know how to steer. Think of a time you reacted with disproportionate anger to a minor criticism. The event was small, but your reaction was large. That mismatch is a signal, a flashing light pointing directly to an unexamined wound, a hidden belief that you must be perfect, or a deep-seated fear of being seen as incompetent. Your anger was not really about the criticism. It was about the story you told yourself about what that criticism meant. Without self-awareness, you remain a slave to these hidden stories. With it, you gain the power to rewrite them. Epictetus and his students practiced a powerful nightly ritual to cultivate this awareness. At the end of each day, they would engage in a rigorous review of their actions and judgments. This was not a session of self-condemnation, but a calm, forensic analysis. They would ask themselves questions like, where did I go against my principles today? When did I desire something outside my control? Was my anger justified, or did I assent to a false impression? Imagine doing this yourself. You lie in bed and replay a difficult conversation from the afternoon. Instead of just feeling embarrassed or defensive, you dissect it with a gentle curiosity. You notice the exact moment you felt your pride sting, and you see how that feeling led you to say something sharp and unkind. You are not beating yourself up, you are gathering data. You are learning the unique architecture of your own weaknesses. This knowledge is power. It means the next time a similar situation arises, you are not caught off guard. You can recognize the familiar sting of pride and, in that moment of awareness, choose a different, more virtuous response. That conscious choice is freedom in action. So, what is one blind spot or habit that, if you became aware of it, would increase your personal freedom? Is it a tendency to people-please, a habit of procrastination when faced with a difficult task, or a quickness to judge others? Simply naming it, bringing it into the light of your conscious attention, is the first act of taking back your power from it. Your deepest personal freedom is not a solitary escape, but a harmonious chord played with the world. Epictetus presented a beautiful paradox that our liberation is found not in isolation, but in willing service to the common good. He saw the universe as a single, rational city, and each of us as a citizen of it. To live according to our own highest nature, which is reason, means to act for the benefit of the whole. He offered a simple, bodily metaphor. Just as the foot or the hand, if it had reason, would understand that its purpose is fulfilled in service to the entire body, so too must we work together for the common welfare. The foot does not lament its role of touching the ground. It finds its strength and its very identity in supporting the body's movement. Your own freedom, then, is not diminished by helping others. It is amplified. Think of a time you volunteered for a cause you believed in, or simply spent an afternoon helping a friend move into a new home. In that moment of focused service, your own personal worries and insecurities often fade into the background. You are no longer obsessing over a critical comment from a coworker or fretting about a future bill. You are fully engaged in a task larger than your individual self. The satisfaction that arises is not the fleeting thrill of a personal victory, but a deep, enduring sense of purpose. You are acting in alignment with that cosmic reason, and in doing so, you experience a profound form of inner peace. This is the freedom of the hand that gladly lifts the burden, knowing it is part of something greater. How can an act of service this week be an expression of your own inner freedom? It does not need to be a grand gesture. It could be listening patiently to a lonely neighbor, mentoring a junior colleague without expectation of credit, or volunteering an hour of your time to a local organization. In that conscious choice to contribute, you are not giving your freedom away. You are exercising it at its highest level, proving that your will is aligned with virtue and the good of the whole. Everything you hold dear is already in motion, slipping away like sand through an open hand. This was not a morbid fixation for Epictetus, but a liberating truth. He trained his mind to constantly meditate on the transient nature of all things, from the people he loved to the very ground beneath his feet. This practice was a direct antidote to the fear and clinging that make us slaves to our circumstances. By accepting that everything external is on loan from the universe, we release the desperate grip that causes so much of our suffering. Epictetus himself lived with the constant reminder of his own mortality and physical fragility, seeing his body not as a permanent possession but as a temporary vessel. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius echoed this with a powerful image, writing that time is a river, a violent current of events glimpsed once and already carried past. Another wave comes and is gone. Think of the most famous celebrities or the wealthiest individuals of a decade ago. Where is that fervent public attention now? Where are those vast fortunes? They have shifted, dissolved, or been forgotten, proving that even the most dazzling externals are subject to the same relentless flow. Your own cherished possessions, the relationships you rely on, the health you enjoy, all are passengers in this same current. So take a moment and bring to mind one thing you are tightly attached to, perhaps a specific relationship, your career status, or a physical object of great sentimental value. Now hold the thought that it is temporary, that it will inevitably change form or end. Does that thought bring fear, or does it, perhaps, bring a strange and quiet sense of freedom? This is not about cultivating indifference, but about shifting your investment from the fleeting object itself to the depth of your appreciation for it in this very moment. Knowing the glass is fragile makes you value the water you drink from it now without demanding that it never, ever break. Your mind has a gate and you are its only sentry. For Epictetus, this daily vigilance over the thoughts and impressions we admit was the first and most critical defense of our inner freedom. He saw the constant stream of mental input not as neutral information, but as potential reinforcements for either our liberation or our imprisonment. Every piece of gossip, every alarming headline, every unsolicited opinion is like a traveler approaching the gates of your inner citadel. You have the absolute authority to question them before you let them inside. He advised his students to say to every harsh appearance, "You are but an appearance, and not at all the thing you appear to be." This is the discipline of the gatekeeper, a constant filtering of the mental traffic that seeks entry into your consciousness. A modern example of this practice is the conscious choice to disengage from a toxic news cycle or a spiral of workplace gossip. You recognize that immersing yourself in that stream of outrage or hearsay does not serve your peace. It agitates your spirit and fills your mental fortress with noise and chaos. So you make a deliberate choice. You might close the news tab after 5 minutes instead of an hour, or you might politely change the subject when a conversation turns to malicious speculation about a colleague. You are not ignoring reality. You are simply guarding the gate of your mind, refusing to grant citizenship to thoughts that would only disrupt your inner realm. You are exercising your sovereignty over the one territory you truly command. So what is one source of mental pollution you can guard against today? Is it the endless scroll of social media comparison, the habit of listening to complaints that go nowhere, or the internal replay of a past argument? Your freedom begins with the simple, powerful act of choosing what you let through the gate. This freedom is a muscle you must exercise every single day. Epictetus envisioned the philosopher's school not as a lecture hall, but as a hospital for the soul, a place where students came to be healed of their faulty judgments and destructive desires. You would not expect a single visit to the gym to transform your body permanently. In the same way, a passing understanding of Stoic principles is not enough. Your inner citadel is maintained through repetition, through the daily lifting of mental weights. Every irritation, every disappointment, every moment of fear is another repetition in your workout. The goal is not to avoid these moments, but to use them. That difficult commute becomes your patience drill. The critical feedback becomes your resilience training. The unexpected bill becomes your practice in temperance. You are building the mental reflexes of a free person, one conscious choice at a time. To anchor this practice, consider establishing a simple Stoic morning ritual. Before the day's demands rush in, take just a few quiet moments. Remember the dichotomy of control. Acknowledge what will be outside your command today, the meetings, the traffic, the opinions of others, and then firmly resolve to focus your energy solely on what is yours, your own efforts, your judgments, your actions. Set your intention not for a perfect, easy day, but for a day lived with virtue, no matter what happens. This daily preparation aligns your mind with reality before reality tests you. So what one Stoic practice will you commit to performing consistently this week? Will it be the premeditation of difficulties to build resilience, the objective description of events to strip away emotional charge? Or perhaps the nightly review of your own judgments? Your path to an unshakable freedom is paved with these small, deliberate, daily steps. Freedom is not built on a single pillar but supported by an entire structure of character. For Epictetus and the Stoics, the four cardinal virtues were not separate skills to be mastered in isolation. Wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance are a unified whole, each one depending on the others and all essential for true liberation. He taught that to act unjustly, for instance, is to immediately enslave yourself to vice, corrupting your inner citadel from within. Imagine a situation that calls for courage, like speaking up against an unethical practice at your workplace. The act itself requires the bravery to face potential conflict, but that courage is hollow without wisdom to discern the right moment and manner to speak. It demands justice to guide your words toward the common good, not just personal grievance, and it needs temperance to control the impulse to shout in anger, ensuring your message is heard rather than dismissed. You cannot truly have one virtue without the others supporting it. They are different expressions of the same core principle, living in accordance with reason. How does growing in one virtue support your growth in all the others? When you practice temperance by resisting an unnecessary purchase, you are also exercising the wisdom to see that your happiness does not depend on that object. That same act is a form of justice, as it prevents you from wasting resources that could be better used elsewhere, and it takes a quiet courage to go against the current of consumer desire. Each virtuous choice, no matter how small, strengthens the entire foundation of your character, making your inner freedom more resilient and complete. The ultimate destination of this entire journey is a life lived in accordance with nature. For Epictetus, this was the final aim, the telos that gave meaning to every mental exercise and disciplined choice. To live according to nature did not mean retreating to the wilderness. It meant living in harmony with our own deepest design as rational and social beings. We are fragments of universal reason, and our highest purpose is to align our individual will with this cosmic order. Epictetus often spoke of following God, by which he meant this divine, rational principle that governs the universe. He suggested we should act as a loyal citizen of the cosmos, trusting its grand, intelligent design even when we cannot see the full picture. Picture a leaf carried on the current of a vast river. The leaf does not struggle against the flow. It does not try to swim upstream or cling desperately to a passing branch. It moves with the water, part of a greater movement it does not need to command. A human life lived in accordance with nature feels much the same from the inside, a state of profound harmony and the absence of internal conflict. Your desires are aligned with what is good and true. Your actions flow effortlessly from your virtuous character. There is no civil war within your soul between what you want and what is real. This is the freedom Epictetus found. His lameness, his slavery, his poverty, these were all part of the river's current. By accepting them and using them as fuel for his virtue, he stopped fighting the flow and began to move with it, discovering a peace that no external circumstance could disrupt. So we come to a final, personal reflection. What would it look like for you to live one day more in accordance with nature? It might begin with a single, conscious choice. Choosing patience in a moment of frustration because that aligns with your rational nature. Offering help to a stranger because that honors your social nature. Or simply accepting a minor inconvenience without an internal complaint because that is your agreement with the way of the world. This is not a distant philosophical ideal. It is the quiet, practical freedom of a leaf on the water, moving in harmony with the great river of existence. True freedom is not a set of external permissions, but an internal state of mind you can build starting today. Epictetus proved that a man in chains could be freer than his emperor by mastering the only territory he truly owned, his own judgments and choices. This entire journey rests on a few profound shifts. First, the unwavering focus on what is within your power, the sacred inner citadel of your opinions and actions, while letting go of the rest. Then, the radical embrace of your fate, loving the very circumstances that test you as the raw material for your strength. And finally, the daily discipline of guarding your mind, questioning every impression that seeks to disturb your peace. These are not just ideas, they are practices for living. Your life, with all its unique challenges and limitations, is not an obstacle to your freedom. It is the only training ground you will ever need. Every difficulty is a weight to strengthen your character, every frustration a drill for your patience. As Epictetus himself put it, freedom is secured not by the fulfillment of your desires, but by the removal of your desires. When you stop trying to command the wind and instead learn to adjust your own sails, you discover a liberation that no external storm can take from you. If these principles resonated with you and you want to continue this journey, subscribe for more practical Stoic wisdom you can apply to your own life. And we would love to hear from you. What is one insight you are taking away from the story of Epictetus? Share your thoughts in the comments below.